Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, knowing which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate for them to read. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. So if you're looking for a real review from a mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. So this week's book review is The Lost Ones by Johan Rundberg, and this is book 3 in the Moonwind Mysteries series. It is now late summer. Mika has moved on to solve one of the most dangerous cases yet. Detective Hoff brings her in on the missing case of a 14-year-old girl from an affluent part of town. They quickly catch on that things are not exactly as they seem. Furthermore, if one mystery was not enough, Mika is awoken in the middle of the night by Tekla, who takes her to a recent building site in which an entire hole full of skeletons of children has been found. So before I go much further into this particular installment in the series, there is a fourth book coming. I'm going to read to you just a little bit of chapter 1, just to give you an idea of the writing style as we enter into this story. And so chapter 1, Stockholm, Sweden, 1880. The sun is high in the sky, and in the courtyard of the public children's home, the shadows are so short that even a mouse wouldn't be able to find relief near the walls of the building. A drop of sweat runs down Mika's forehead, and she makes a face when the salt stings her eye. She grabs a handful of straw from the sack and shoves it into the mattress cover. The sharp sticks scratch the skin on her forearm. The Department of Health is coming for an inspection, and Amelia, the house parent of the orphanage, has decided that all the mattresses must be restuffed. Mika ties the mattresses together, then she reaches for another one and shakes out the old straw. It is full of black dots, mouse poop, and dead bugs. Even though the latrine was emptied recently, a sweet and sour stench permeates the yard. Not that it's better anywhere else in Stockholm. The heat wave of the past few weeks does not discriminate between rich and poor. The horse manure in the streets, the butcher's meat scraps, the putrid backyard latrines, the smells mingle and rise like a thick vapor throughout the city. The ruthless cold of last winter feels like another life. A sharp stick pokes Mika under the nail, and she swears between clenched teeth. If only Rufus were here to help, but Rufus has something important to do, something that he refused to tell her about. If he's gone swimming, I'll kill him, Mika thinks, and pulls at her dress, irritated. It's glued to her back. The thought of Stroman Bay's cool water gives her goosebumps. Maybe Amelia will let her sneak away for a quick dip when her work is done, to rinse away the sweat and old straw. Her daydream comes to an end when a hard knock rattles the gate to the courtyard. She hears Ossian's voice calling out from inside the children's home. The police are here! Mika immediately drops what she's doing. Fear courses through her body when she notices that the lock from the gate is sitting on the ground by the wooden fence. Her carelessness means that she now has only seconds. With a leap, she's on top of the water tank, but then she pulls herself up onto the outhouse roof. From there, she steadies herself, then jumps over to the courtyard building. Mika has practiced this escape route many times, but she still trips when she lands and falls flat on the scalding hot tar paper. From the yard comes a bang when the gate opens. Mika's heart thunders in her chest as she gets up on her feet. She starts climbing down the downspout, her dress heavy with sticky tar. Next to the eastern chimney on the orphanage roof is a coiled rope. Mika plans to let herself down behind the building. From there, it will be easy to disappear into the alley around Hortorget Square. If I don't get shot first, she thinks, and despite the heat, a cold shiver runs up her spine. Hanging there on the side of the building, she's an easy target. But there is no shot. Instead, she hears a familiar voice from the courtyard. Where's the fire, ragamuffin? And for a moment, Mika hangs there between the second and third floor. Then she loosens her grip on the downspout and slides back onto the roof of the building. Her pulse is still quick when she walks towards the edge. Down in the yard is Constable Vladimir Holf from the Criminal Investigations Department. From this angle, he looks no bigger than an orphan, even though most orphans don't have a red nose and a full beard. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of the opening of the story, pulling the reader in, a lot of sensory details. Working in the chapel one evening as she continues in this story, Mika is contemplating all the information that she has learned. Meanwhile, one of the drunk patrons chokes her and then reveals that he did not do what his superior told him to do, but that he had to put them in a sacred place. That's all that he says. Mika is really confused by this revelation and is also gasping for air, as she really is severely choked. Mika shares the experience and intel that she received from Tekla, and the two set out to see it again during the daylight. Her and Constable Hoff. Unfortunately, when they arrive, the grave has been filled in and a new foundation has been erected in its place. The manager of the project is also not pleased with their visit, and he's really quick to kind of shake them off. With little options without evidence, Mika is reminded of what the drunk patron had told her at the chapel. They begin to scour the local cemeteries until they find the one in which the bones have been dropped. The custodian of the cemetery does not want to get involved with any investigation. Everyone is fearful of the dark angel, whoever this seems to be. Jumping from one investigation to another, Mika manages to interview one of Beatrice's friends. She is the 14-year-old who is missing, which really begins to open up more avenues for learning the whereabouts of Beatrice, like I said, the 14-year-old who's missing. It isn't long before Mika starts to put things together, and the skeletons, the dark angel, and Beatrice's disappearance are actually all connected. And now things are even more dangerous for Constable Hoff and Mika. In fact, one of the dark angel's associates attempts to murder Constable Hoff. Fortunately, he does survive, but the wound and blood loss are quite severe, and he's not exactly the same. As further backup for her new plan, Mika calls in the assistance of Tekla and her crew. If you've made it to book 3 in the reviews for this series, you know that it is a rather dark mystery series. And while it is recommended for ages 10 to 14, again, I would probably put it at the 13 and up range, just given the nature of the subject matter. Aside from investigating murders, and in this installment in the series, the murder of over 40 infants, what it ultimately is behind the series is unwed mothers and their families wanting to dispose of the unwanted children. Mika has a further revelation that just like Nora, she was intended to be handed over to the Dark Angel, but ultimately was saved and taken to the orphanage instead. Beatrice, the missing girl, is herself an unwed pregnant mother at the age of 14. As a side note, also the woman who's the wet nurse for Nora is also approximately just a few years older than Mika. Mika manages to track down Beatrice through various connections, and then she ultimately uses her as cover to trick the Dark Angel. Mika's plan works, but it does almost kill her. In the end, the Dark Angel is arrested and put in a secure prison. Mika chooses to meet her face to face. When she does, the Dark Angel reveals the true identity of her father. And then upon meeting him, she learns further details about her mother, and book 3 ends with her on the road to finally find her mother and to meet her. If you go to my website at holdingsteadfastreaders.com, you're going to find some additional details about particular quotes that I thought were worth sharing, and just some additional information that is worth sharing. And so if you go to holdingsteadfastreaders.com, you're going to get that information. There is also just a few language mentions that I put in there, so I just want to make you aware. Overall, I really did enjoy the story. It was captivating. It's intriguing to follow Mika and try and solve the case, maybe even before she does. And so while the crux of the story centers around unwed mothers who are disposing of their babies, there isn't anything mentioned sexually. It's very clean and just a matter of fact. However, you just can't get away from a story where 14-year-olds are pregnant, even in the 1880s. This is where discernment is especially needed for families who have children who may be a bit young for the subject matter, or the story itself may be just a little bit dark for younger readers. Book 4 is set to be available in March of 2026 in the US, and so I hope to get that book and get a review for you by the end of spring. So that kind of wraps up this week's book review. I hope that's helpful for you as a parent, especially when you're in book series, kind of trying to figure out which are appropriate, which are not. Where's the series leading to? So sometimes that's helpful before you even let your child begin a series, and then having to maybe pull back from it. But hopefully that's helpful to you as a parent, and that you will join me next week for another book review.